Welcome to Gems of Acumatica Summit 2026. We're here today to reflect on and share the standout insights from Summit. Every year, Acumatica Summit delivers an incredible amount of information, innovation, and inspiration. But once we return to our day-to-day roles, it can be challenging to sort through it all and identify what truly matters. So today's session is truly about highlighting the gems, the ideas, lessons, and moments that will have the greatest impact on how we work, collaborate, and move forward within the Acumatica ecosystem. Now, let's do a few introductions. My name is Chloe Wilson, and I am honored to be your host today. I serve on the Acumatica Events Committee at Acu-Connect, and I also work as an Acumatica Marketing Manager at Crestwood Associates. Now, let's introduce our speakers. First, we have Arline Welty, Principal Solution Architect at Stellar One, and we're also joined by Elizabeth Cameron, Member Recruitment Director at Stellar One. We're grateful to have both of them with us today, sharing their experience and insights from Summit. Before we turn it over to the speakers, I want to briefly highlight the mission behind Acu-Connect. Our mission is to provide Acumatica customers, partners, ISVs, and employees with opportunities to learn, share, and connect. Acu-Connect is an independent nonprofit organization built specifically to strengthen the Acumatica ecosystem. We exist to create a network for education, resources, and collaboration across the entire community. And I want you to know, membership is completely free. If you are not already part of the community, we encourage you to join at acuconnect.com. And we can go to the next slide. Perfect. Because we operate independently, our events and programming are funded by sponsors. We want to extend a sincere thank you to our charter sponsors, premium sponsors, and supporting sponsors. Their commitment allows us to continue delivering events like this and expanding opportunities throughout the year. Now we're going to move on to events. We have several upcoming ways to stay involved. In March, we will be highlighting a few of the stars of Hackathon. In April, we'll be holding a spring virtual networking session. And in September, we're excited to host our 7th annual Acu-Connect virtual conference. You can find all of the details via this QR code or at acuconnect.com/events. With that, let's dive into today's section. Elizabeth, feel free to take it away.
Thank you so much, Chloe. So we are going to start off this year the same as we did last year with some stats. So small to mid-sized businesses still prove to be the backbone of the U.S. economy, representing around 46% of U.S. employment. From 2025, last year when we did this session, Acumatica was forecasting around $500 billion that they were expecting to be transacted in the platform in Acumatica. We got an update at this year's summit that over $500 billion was transacted in Acumatica in the year. So excited to come to you guys next year and see how that number continues to grow. And then on the platform side as well, we're told around 280,000 daily unique users on the Acumatica platform. And then again, a comparison from last year in 2025, we had around 30,000 community members that were active on the Acumatica community. That has now grown to around 35,000 community members. So there are your updates from 2026 or 2025 to 2026 on our stats. The next piece that we wanted to bring back was some of the language that we were hearing around the Acumatica Summit. So I think the biggest one that struck me was this transition from a system of record to a system of intelligence. That being, your ERP platform is not just a place to store your data, it's the platform that gives you intelligence about your business. And I think Debbie had really emphasized this point walking through that example of a company trying to figure out, did they actually profit from this sale? And figuring out where they lost margin or incurred additional costs along the way. And being able to not just guess, but really understand and get the intelligence behind where that margin went. The next piece of language that we were hearing across Summit was this concept of an ERP platform being a digital replica of your business. I think this ties right into that system of intelligence language as well. And then one of our,
just piping in, like there's a sense that like it's alive and we're interacting with it. It's like they're foreshadowing like the role of AI, it seems like, as the product develops.
Absolutely. And then one of our very favorite gems that we got out of the keynote was from Debbie Baldwin, who said the lines between distribution, retail, and manufacturing, they're gone. This, I think, is so important in today's world where all of these business models are blending. Manufacturers aren't just manufacturers anymore. They're selling to customers. Folks who are just retailers are now making their own goods and all of that. So these lines are really blending and gone between those traditional business models. And it just underscores the importance of that system of intelligence to understand all of those pieces of your business.
Loved that one. Loved how she delivered it.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Debbie Baldwin. So some more gems, as we were thinking through what are the gems of Summit, how do we make sure we're thinking broadly about stories for everyone, where we did come up with several stories that really highlight the specialness of Acumatica Summit. So the first story gem is Acumatica Customer of the Year, StormSmart. And I know they got their flowers on stage, but I can really see why they are the Customer of the Year. And it was so exciting to hear their stories. So Brian Cassell, the CFO, and Jennifer Palecchio, the Director of Technology, talked about how Acumatica helped them scale. So not just scale within StormSmart, but they grew FloodSmart and Impact Garage Doors. And the lesson that I sort of see as gem-like from what Jennifer, the Director of Technology, said was, you can't just have this be like an IT project or a single part of the organization, or perhaps like a finance project, but you've really got to have champions throughout the company. Another thing they mentioned was how they scaled was really with low-code, no-code tools. They're expanding those. They've got 75% of their company using Acumatica. And then once the manufacturing suite comes online, they said it would be 90% of their company. So really cool to see that.
Another thing that struck me with their story, they were, and this goes right back to our stats, they said they, as a company, have been around for about 30 years. But since 2021, evaluating and deploying Acumatica, they've doubled their revenue. So around 100 million, now on their way to 200 million, from 2 branches to 7 branches. So I think just good proof of why it's so important to have all of your systems in one place, all of your intelligence in one place to actually make that growth story come true.
Mm-hmm. Another gem, this is just a story. So these stories are kind of anecdotes that we noticed and picked up. Was I heard several times about how successful the warehouse management best practices and what's new session was. So that was led by Mike Bradshaw and the WMS team. And the gem from this is really an appreciation to the way that session was led and the way it reflects Acumatica's commitment to gathering input from the community, both people who bring the product to market, but also people who work in the WMS every day. So that's, as you might imagine, a session like that. Some people are complaining, some people want things to be different. There's a very transparent, user experience being shared directly to the team. And that can feel confrontational or can feel difficult, but I think the way this was managed was really successful because the folks at Acumatica on the WMS team were very open to receiving that. And I'm aware that process is also happening with some of the other features that are coming out in 26R1. The kiosk to be used on the manufacturing shop floor, I think, was developed in a similar way. So certainly a gem, and we just have a lot of appreciation for processes that can be handled that way with a lot of input from the people using the tools. Okay, one last story gem. I just have so much appreciation for Helen Yu, founder and CEO of Taigon Advisory. She spoke at the Women in Tech Luncheon. So for anyone who wasn't there, I just want to share this gem among many, many, many gems that she shared with us, which was, first, she had a very intentional style, and I just really admired how thoughtful she was. She's also a former principal solutions architect at Oracle. So I am excited about that cred. But one of the things that Helen, you said was that I'll share is find your personal board of directors. So what she means by that, and I would encourage anyone listening to like think about if there are people in your community who might act in these ways, but a sponsor who mentions you when you're not in the room, an advisor who helps with the strategic questions, and a mentor who helps knock down doors. So for me, that was a huge gem among many, many that she shared. So just wanted to say thank you to Helen Yu for that contribution. Hackathon. Hackathon is a big gem. It's like a gem all on its own. And it was my personal first time being part of Hackathon. Met lots of people, and I just admire so much the team that won. Dictara did a low code, no code solution. And I asked Ignacio, who's quoted here, Nacho, to share any advice that he might have for future participants or anyone who's maybe considering joining Hackathon. So give that a read. But I just so appreciate his advice. You know, he's a developer. He had lots of ideas. They came up with this like no code solution. Ignacio is the one who actually spoke in Spanish to the Acumatica app that was then translated to English for one of his colleagues. And I love his encouragement here that, yeah, collaboration is where the real magic happens. So thank you, Nacho, for that advice for people.
And one of the gems that I got out of talking with the teams that were involved in Hackathon was really the feeling that there is room for everyone at the table at Hackathon, and that the positioning and the pitching of the product is just as important as the product itself. So you don't have to be a developer to have a seat at the table and really have an impact and enjoy Hackathon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on to our product and platform gems. So we always want to focus this session on, as much as possible, on things that are, you know, the juicy little insights, but feels wrong to go through it without sharing some of the really key product improvements. So I wanted to take a moment and cover our thoughts on some of the big ones. So first one being the data warehouse. The ability here, or the insight here, is that we're able to separate the transactional and the reporting data so that we can help the product run faster and help reporting run faster. The kind of additional piece of this that's helpful as we are running full speed into the world of AI is that AI does better with structured data. So this data warehouse component could be really helpful for folks who are engaging with AI more with the platform.
Yeah, it seems like they're foreshadowing how those two things can really work together. I'm thinking of like huge, you know, situations where you got huge commercial transaction volume potentially. And if that could then migrate to the, you know, the reporting warehouse, your AI, you know, your AI solutions could look at that and then feed that dashboard that Debbie Baldwin had mentioned around Amazon profitability. So seems like they're foreshadowing a lot of good stuff related to data feeding AI properly.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of these are all kind of related to that concept. So another one, the Insight Excel. We know Acumatica and Excel are connected today. You can bring your GIs, generic inquiries, from Acumatica out to Excel and have that kind of live connection. But I think where this Insight Excel, from what we can tell, where it's leveling up that ability is in showing the formulas and what's actually happening in those calculations in Acumatica and giving users access to that in Excel. And could be a really compelling option for those folks that aren't running Blixo. I'm very interested to see what comes out of this one. And then a couple of the more kind of product capability gems, the order orchestration agent, giving users that ability to be able to, with one click, apply the best fulfillment plan for every order, taking into account fulfillment from multiple warehouses to get the job done. That looks really powerful. And then this Amazon dashboard as well. We have some existing Amazon dashboards in the product, but we're still missing that sales profitability piece. So I think this really fills an important gap in allowing merchants who are selling on Amazon to be able to understand if that's a profitable avenue for them, and really break down, the fees, the sales, break it down by time period, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
And then the
it's not
last,
easy to see all that.
oh yeah,
We need that. It's not easy to see all that. I know there's a lot of different sources that people have to consult to get that information, so potentially very useful there.
yeah, absolutely. And then the last couple here, I'm kind of bundling AI Studio and MCP together a little bit. And I think what we've seen from AI Studio so far, so this was something that was brought up last year at Summit. What we're seeing in these capabilities so far are that they're focused a lot on saving time and really either improving consistency of your data or reducing the amount that somebody has to enter a specific piece of data. So we saw that with the case closure notes and some of the product descriptions and some of those use cases. And we also heard at this year's summit some of the future things that they're investing in AI Studio, like multi-agent workflows, the chat capabilities, the MCP capabilities that maybe we don't have in our hands yet. But with what we do have in our hands with AI Studio, I think some of those fundamentals, the things that save you time, reduce errors, reduce manual data entry, I think it's important to, as technicians and people working with this product, important to get that stuff right first and really understand that, improve the quality of the data we have in the system, be able to make intelligent decisions off of it, so that as we have the ability to then use MCP to interact with our data from Claude or GPT, that we're ready for that at that time. So I think it's really exciting. I'm very excited to see those products get in users' hands, but do think that there's still a lot of value in really getting up to speed on what we have available today. So we're ready for that.
Cool. All right. The technical roadmap is always like the biggest diamond in the bunch for me. I love seeing what people are working on, prototyping, thinking about, and sharing. And I love like the star power of these three, Mike, Andrew, and Omar. Thank you three so much for doing the roadmap. And I love the approachable way that this is all presented. So a couple highlights for me from the technical roadmap side of things. Number one, the modern UI it seems like it's still being completed. The rollout is still being completed. It's a big project. It's been in the works for years for folks who have been tracking that. But as that's happening, it seems like the team is really anticipating our questions as part of that. And a quote from Mike, the founder and CTO, made me laugh. Was the modern UI is a huge stress for the development team, but also for you since you have to move there. And I know moving there is going to be an effort. There's certainly some manual efforts that we will need to take on as folks who are working in the product. If you've got, for example, a user-defined field on the screen in the classic UI, when you convert it to modern UI, you do need to add that field back to the screen. Because of the way that screen is structured, you need to explicitly declare where on the screen it's going to go. Acumatica doesn't make that decision for you. So I understand why, but just be aware it is going to be, a one-time lift for us. Now, the benefit that that's meant to provide is that the screens are meant to load faster and our whole experience is supposed to be faster. So what the team shared was that from telemetry data, the most used screens are meant to improve and run 50% faster. The most used screens are sales orders and bills and adjustments. And then the overall performance boost based on telemetry is meant to be 30%. So we're looking at quicker software. And this is where Yuri Zaleski made just a great observation that I wanted to share, which is, well, the UI speed, the user interface speed, often drives user adoption more than feature depth. So for us, this is hopefully something that really helps us and everybody using the product, because when it's faster, more people using it. Like look at StormSmart, they got 75% of their people using Acumatica, you know, for that next chunk, speed is going to really matter because you're looking at people who haven't used it before. Other little technical roadmap highlights: the team is refactoring and redirecting pop-ups, making it easy to move and create records without navigating away from where you are. I like that. Providing more code snippets to help with complex screen layouts. Thank you. As a low-code, no-code person, code snippets are super helpful. And there's going to be a learning curve, and there are some screens that are just going to feel different. But we'll get there. In terms of, it's worth it.
I think so.
Yeah. So in terms of reporting, a couple nice highlights. So again, I got to quote Mike, founder and CTO. Why do you have ERP? It's not just to put data in, it is to extract the data. So for that reason, the business intelligence and reporting capabilities are really critical. And the team acknowledged that there was more Acumatica could do from a platform perspective to keep people in Acumatica for their business intelligence and analytics. So there were some primary challenges related to just the way things are built, our legacy forms, the Acumatica report manager, the sort of financial reports do require specialized skills. It can be complex for ordinary users, but how can we make these more approachable and accessible is something on their mind. And some little gadget benefits that Beth convinced me we should definitely include in the gems are that, you know, if you can picture your dashboard now, there are additional gadget support coming for, you know, time-based, so year-to-date, last year-to-date, you know, comparing these sort of like aggregated numbers, as well as an extended widget library, so a stacked KPI, a heat map, progress bar, that sort of things. So it seems like the goal here is to help people stay more in Acumatica. I think that data warehouse capability might also be playing a role here, where if you've experienced large reports timing out, if that report can be built against the reporting data set, that will potentially, you know, separate those concerns and make it much easier and faster to run those reports within Acumatica. Oh, okay, one last gem. This is only a prototype. If you can't see it, just let me tell you, this is exciting because it's a generic inquiry on a screen, but it's got a hierarchy to it. So we've got a top level of the customer, and then I have a little caret, and I can expand it to the cases, and a little caret, and I can expand further into those details. So the data is still structured the same in the Acumatica database, but it's being presented in a hierarchical format. One caveat to this is, even if you have a generic inquiry with grouping and you've got this aggregation going, it's fine to present it this way, but grouping in a generic inquiry still disallows it from being used as a data source in a business event for now.
All right, and last but not least, the biggest gem of all was not Ali Johnny announcing that he was stepping back from his role, but it was Ali Johnny on the dance floor at the celebration party, surrounded by everyone jumping up and down, chanting his name. What a send-off.
That's right.
Perfect. Well, as we wrap up today's session, I want to sincerely thank our speakers. So thank you both for sharing these gems from Acumatica Summit 2026. And to everyone who joined us today, thank you for being part of the conversation. The strength of Acu-Connect comes from the engaged members like you all. And if you're not already a member, I do encourage you to join Acu-Connect via acuconnect.com. And I want to say thank you again for your time and participation. We look forward to seeing you at an upcoming event. Thank you.